Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. I was in the kitchen starting supper, making a homemade meatloaf, some Brussels sprouts, and a spicy pasta salad as a side dish. And the thought came to me, I've been getting prepared for this storm that's coming, this next hurricane that's in the Gulf. And they're saying it may come up through here and maybe give maybe some 40-mile-an-hour winds and some rain. So I've been doing some chores like cleaning gutters, checking the generator, making sure it's going. Got to get some non-ethanol in the morning for that. Emptying the sediment filter on the well. Just doing different things, preparing for an excess of rain. Anything like that I can think of, just routine tasks really, but preparing for the storm. But as I'm cooking, I'm thinking there is a message in this, preparing for the storm. And so the Lord has given me a walk and talk. We're going to take a ride up to the barn. I want to check in on that grass that I sowed almost 2 weeks ago now, and we're going to see what it's looking like, and we're going to talk a little bit about preparing for the storm. Just look at all that green grass growing, y'all. It's up, golly, 2.5 inches now. 2 weeks, and it looks like I've had pretty much 100% germination. That triple 19 granular fertilizer I put out helps too. It gets it a quick jump, and we've had this perfect weather, slow soaking rain ever since I graded and sowed this small half-acre pasture up here. I am very tickled with the outcome so far. Thought I'd change venues for just a minute. Came down here to where the pigs are, and this beautiful cover crop of turnips and kale and mustard back here behind me. But while I was starting to prepare supper, it's in the oven now, thankfully, thoughts have been on my brain about the storm that's coming. We just got over an unnamed storm that hit the Carolinas just a couple of weeks ago, kind of formed out of nowhere and dumped tons of rain, y'all. All the way on the coast, all the way up through here too, to Piedmont. Caused a lot of damage. But now they're calling for another one, like a category 3 or 4 hurricane to come up through Florida and on up. By the time you watch this, it may have already happened, because I'm recording this on Wednesday, and I think they're saying Friday or something like that for the storm, but I may try to get it out before then. But so I've just been doing the normal things, you know, preparing. Years ago, when we first moved in to the Piney Woods Homestead, it was August 2016, and the weatherman was calling for a massive hurricane. I don't remember which one it was. So I went out and bought a generator, bought the hookup stuff for hooking it into your panel after you've cut off the main breaker so you don't kill anybody on the other side. And I've never had to use the thing since we bought it. I've cranked it, I've maintained the generator, I've tested out the work that I did to make sure it would work with the house, but I've never had to use it. And I'm thankful for that, and there may come a time where I have to, but I'm prepared nonetheless. But as I'm working on supper, Peter came to mind, and let me get turned to it. Matthew chapter 14 is where I'm wanting to read here. And I want to read this to you. It's a short account. I said it was 14. Yes, chapter 14, starting in verse 22. Let me read this to you real quick. Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. And what it's talking about is he had just fed a whole bunch of people, y'all, with just, I believe it was a couple of fish and a couple of loaves of bread, if I'm not mistaken. And all these people wanted to follow him. And so he dismissed the crowd. And after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. And I find that prayer alone, by yourself, with the Lord, is the most rewarding time of my day. It really is. It's when all those fears and anxieties that I have, I can lay on him and he comforts me. So Jesus is doing that himself on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. They were having a hard time getting this boat, the disciples, across this body of water because the wind was against them. Waves were high. It was a squall. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. And you got to remember, they've been on the water all night. Jesus had dismissed the crowd probably before dark. He had gone up on a mountainside to pray, and the disciples set out in the boat. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Here's Peter. "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." He's testing him. "Come," Jesus said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, the squall, when he became afraid, he began to sink, and he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why do you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshiping him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." We've never been a prepping channel by any means, but y'all, we are not foolish either. We prepare. We prepare through the food that we grow in the gardens, the meat that we raise out here. We've prepared through providing a generator for the house in the event that there's a power outage. Never have had to use it, but it's there. Got the hookup for it for the house, so you can run individual circuits if you want to at the time. Just never have had to use it, thankfully. Fortunately, believe it or not, Duke Power keeps us on, for the most part, pretty good. Let's see. We've got a pantry full of food. We store it up so that in case next year's garden doesn't work out, we have it. So we're not really a prepping channel by any means, because we don't focus on that, but we do prepare in the obvious and common sense approach that we put to it. But what we see here with Peter, the disciples see Jesus walking on the water. Peter wants to make for sure that it really is him, and he says, "If this is really you, call me out to walk on the water to you." So he said, "Come on." Peter steps out. He is walking on the water, just like Jesus, the Son of God, walking on the water. And y'all probably heard this preached many a time in church. But Peter takes his focus off of Jesus just long enough to notice the wind and the waves. And he becomes fearful, and it begins to sink. Jesus reaches out, grabs him by the hand when he says, "Save me," and pulls him back up. They get into the boat, carry on the way. Everything dies down and it's calm. Life is very much the same way. And I have been in that cycle like Peter off and on many times in my life, y'all. Don't think for a second because I get on here and do these walking talks that I am a perfect Christian by any means, that my faith is bigger than yours. I have to ask the Lord every single day to increase my faith, because I see those storm clouds and I see those waves and I become fearful. Even when things are going pretty good, then I begin to doubt the things that the Lord has set into motion, that they will come to pass. But I have to remember that God alone is my strength, and that there is nothing that I can accomplish on my own apart from Him. And so when I see things that are looking pretty good. And I'm going to tell you, Lisa and I, if you've watched us since the beginning, you've seen some of the roller coaster from the near death that I had to the long recovery that I'm still enduring, y'all. It's just is what it is. But God supplies the strength that I need between the two of us to work hard. She was saying it earlier. Her mama asked her today, how in the world have y'all made it since Matthew's sickness and leaving the police department and all this? And she said, a lot of prayer and a lot of hard work, a lot of hustle. And the Lord has just blessed us through the hard work, the hustle, and other means to provide for us. And He will always do that. But I tend to look at the waves from time to time, and I'm sure that some of y'all do too. But we don't need to focus on the waves. We need to focus on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, because He alone can calm those little storms, those little squalls, even the big ones in your life. All you have to do is reach out to Him and say, save me. It's as simple as that, guys. That's how Lisa and I live. We have doubts and fears. Sure, we're human, and God knows that. He made us out of dirt after all. Breathed the breath of life into Adam. And so we have that breath of life. But we constantly have to remind ourselves to look to Jesus. Only He can save from whatever storm you're going through, whatever trial that you have in your life. And I guarantee you this, life is all about trials. You'll have one trial, it just prepares you for the next. The next one prepares you for the next one, and so forth. That's about sanctification. Once you become a believer in Christ, you've accepted Him into your heart for what He did for you on the cross, through the death, burial, and resurrection, defeating death, hell, sin, and the grave. You live your life out trying to imitate Christ and becoming sanctified in the process. Doesn't mean that we'll ever reach 100% perfection, but we should strive to be holy because God is holy and requires us to do so. And in the meantime, while you face these trials of life that come and go, and I love the times when everything smooths out, because that's just a time of some real refreshing. But get ready, because there's always a new storm on the horizon. And how do you be prepared? Is it by putting up tons of food and having a generator and keeping your gutters cleaned and keeping the water filter clean and all that stuff? Sure, you got to do it. But it starts right here in the Word of God, in your relationship with Jesus. That's how you prepare for the storms that this life will surely bring. Guys, I hope that y'all have a good day and a great week, and I thank the Lord for giving me that word while I was cooking meatloaf to share with y'all. I hope that you have a good day and a great week, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high and it dries out, we'll have some more videos for you real soon. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you on the next one.